Alrighty, Rudy.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Welcome once again, guys, to the adcc podcast.
Episode 17.
Every week.
We say it
Every week we say it.
Edging
Ooh, it's almost like one closer this week.
to that explosion of episode 21.
How are we going to start the podcast after episode 21?
Well, we're going to have to get a new goal in place.
Yeah.
Episode 50. Well, we'll have to look up what makes you like the 0.01%.
Yeah, then we start to get into the crazy decimals, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like I said last week, there we just know we've taken over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think we need to find a way of becoming the number one jiu-jitsu podcast.
Yeah. And then the number one podcast. We've got some hefty competition, but...
Thing is with like big podcasts, so like we're obviously a niche podcast, we're a jiu-jitsu podcast, and I imagine when most podcasts probably start, they try and dial into a niche because it's quite a good way of like marketing yourself because you find your audience and you serve your audience. Whereas like the biggest podcasts in the world, they're not niche, and I guess that makes sense because like you want to attract as many people as possible, and some of them they're just chatting shit.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them they're interviewing interesting people, aren't they? And they're sort of talking to them.
Almost is the niche, isn't it? But it's a very broad niche, if that's a...
Yeah, I mean, if you think, my wife watches the DOAC, the Diary of a CEO one with Stephen
Bartlett. Yeah, that's very broad.
Yeah, but like his is, I think, like about... It's like alternative health, I'd say. I think he started it because he was like on a health kick and he wanted to interview like experts in the health and fitness and well-being field.
Yeah, you could say that actually, couldn't you?
Like feedback on stuff. And I think he's sort of broadened out a bit into like... He's actually like covering a lot of the same things that Joe Rogan talks about. Like he has a lot of the same guests, interestingly, which is quite... When I was... Like sometimes I'll recommend an episode on Joe Rogan to my wife. She's like, no, I can't listen to that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the same guy. It's the same person.
It's the same guy. But I think the thing I think a lot of certain people have problems with when it comes to the Rogan podcast is just the broy way it's all delivered.
He has become a lot more political in the last
definitely
3 years.
Sort
I'd
of
say.
quite right wing.
Yeah, and I know he sort of says that he wasn't right wing or isn't right wing. I think he did vote for Trump. Yeah. But I know he always sort of says, I'm left wing, but like it is really like pro all the sort of right stuff, if you like.
Definitely.
So he's definitely like, I feel like he's been co-opted a little bit.
You reckon?
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, he's a friend of Elon, isn't he? So he's done at least two, if not, he's done more than two podcasts.
He's done loads of Elon.
Yeah.
But then Elon says that. He says he wasn't, he always voted left and now he's sort of like, more aligns with the right because like the left have gone so bonkers.
Do you think that's... Yeah, I've thought for a long time that's what it is. It's just the extreme left has gone so crazy. And there's a point, we've said this before, there's a point at which it almost becomes the far right because it's so militant.
Yeah, it goes all the way around to the other side.
Yeah, but at least the right, it is what it says on the tin. It's conservatism. But historically. Yeah. Was the right, the left has always been about free thinking and libertarian, and now it's like fucking shut them down. They're part of the problem. It's just a crazy time, isn't it? It's unclear what the right thing to do is to me, at least.
I think I don't know. I don't have the answers. My gut feeling is like you just got to look out for yourself, but then. That is quite a self-centered reality, isn't it? Yeah. And like, actually, I think if you look at like a wider picture, we should be sort of all looking out for each other and like trying to be more community focused and like help other people and all these sort of things.
I think COVID should have taught us that, and it did in the short term.
I think you went either way though. I think either it sort of like made you want to like help your like neighbour, or it made you like fuck, like I've got to like if you didn't necessarily agree with the popular narrative, you're like, I just want to like there were points where I was like, I just want to move to like somewhere like where you live, like a compound essentially, put up a big like fence with like a massive bush around it and just like give up on society. Like that was my like general feeling was like I just want out.
You're right. I think it brought to the surface because it's the first time we've properly talked about COVID on the podcast, I think.
We probably shouldn't have said COVID.
Oh, exactly.
It'll be interesting to see
shut down
the views. I mean, we don't get huge views anyway, but it'll be interesting to see if the views get like less on this one.
Yeah. What, because of that word?
Yeah, I think if you say things that aren't in line with the popular narrative on COVID, I think you get.
Oh, really?
Like a shadow banned or whatever they call it.
Oh, really? Okay. So, new subject.
Vaccines.
Vaccines.
I just definitely shouldn't have said the V word.
The V word. Yeah, crazy time. But yeah, it was where we were very lucky that we were able to do that. And actually, lockdown, the first, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of people, the first sort of few weeks, I guess, it was just like, well, this is crazy. This is a bit new.
Wasn't it?
I remember saying this to my friend who lives in Kent, and we were, chatting away on the phone, and it was like, oh, I think I could live like this. There's just no all those obligations of daily life we'd kind of just been taken away. There was obviously the money worries and and all the unknown of, like, at that point it was like, what is this thing? Yeah. But the practicalities, was a great spring and summer, wasn't it? And it was God, I could stay like this.
The weather was incredible, so that was a massive factor. But I agree. I was sort of like, man, I could just live like this. Yeah. But like, what would have to happen? Basically, it's like the world would have to end, so money didn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
But it would, if it didn't go full Mad Max, like everyone would have to kind of be like, look, we don't want to like be eating each other or like looting other people's houses. Like let's still try and like live in a like
socialist
fair society. But let's all just give up work.
Yeah, let's all agree that this imaginary thing doesn't have value anymore.
Let's just sort of just live our lives and just do whatever you want. And like, I don't know what would have to happen. We're talking about like a utopian society, essentially, aren't we?
Which is
everyone getting on, like maybe like a trade-based agreement where there's no money. You're like, well, you've got some meat that I need to feed my family. Yeah. What can I do for you? I guess that's the sort of.
But I mean, have you read *Sapiens*?
No.
So *Sapiens*,
I've seen the book.
It poses it sort of talks about the birth of money and where it came from, and what the obvious kind of problem with bartering, as you describe, is you might have apples and the guy's got a donkey and you want to swap a donkey for your apples. It's like, well, I don't want a donkey, but I need to get rid of my apples. Do you know what I mean? So then that's where money came from, because you had to have like a universal thing that everyone agrees it has value that you can use on anything. But I think the problem historically with any utopian society that's ever happened, the Romans or whatever, it's always been propped up by slavery.
Well, I guess we are living in a utopian society at the moment, aren't we? Like, if you went back, like, let's say 2,000 years and you showed them what our society is like, they'd probably say, wow, take me there. Take me there in a second.
Well, and at the same time, you have people in Africa in the cobalt mines working for nothing, so essentially slaves, putting, mining for the things they put in iPhones.
Of course.
And, and you've got, sweatshops, and you've got all these horrible, sort of types of labour that exist in the world to prop up our society. You're kind of right in a way. It's just doesn't exist on our doorstep. We don't have slaves that live across the road or whatever.
Well,
I mean, you do.
You probably do.
You probably do, yeah.
You probably do to a degree, but
You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Crazy.
Polaris.
So let's talk about jiu-jitsu, shall we? Yeah, I was just thinking. Yeah, Polaris. Well, what did you think? So,
Polaris, the squads format, I think so far has failed to deliver.
As in, just as a thing, or just the actual squads?
Squads for Polaris, the format.
Right. Okay.
Like I think they've done like maybe 3 or 4 prior to this one. And every one I've been like excited about, but then they've always like failed to deliver because you had to get a submission to score a point.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure like most of them have ended like 1-0 or like 2-0 or something like that. And bear in mind they have like 2 halves and probably between like 5 and 10 matches per half. Like to get a 1-0 score is like pretty dull. And I know it's not the score, like you can still have a fun match, but like when there's a fun match and it's a draw at the end, like it kind of loses the buzz.
Yeah.
And you
definitely
want the score like going back and forth and things.
Yeah.
So I was glad they changed the format this time, in that there would be like a referee's decision, and whoever won, they got the score, and there was like 2 points for a submission, I think, and 1 point for, or it might have been 3 points, like if you beat someone who was heavier than you.
That I really liked that. That sort of handicap.
So it was definitely better in that respect this time. I don't think they should do 2 halves though.
We'll do it as one thing.
So I watched the first half and I really was engaged in all of the matches, and I enjoyed it. And then there was the super fight with Helena and Annabelle. And then when we went back to the second half, I just kind of lost the interest. Like there was no like we'd seen so many sort of different matchups between the two teams. There was no like matchup that I was like, oh, I want to see that. Like it was kind of like, it's the same people matching, or like slightly different people, but like I'd seen all the people go, and it was kind of so technical and so nip and tuck. It was kind of, I just sort of lost it, and I thought, I didn't think they needed the second half. I don't see what that is giving you necessarily, because you'd already had like basically 10 matches pretty much. Do you feel like you almost get to like a saturation point of, because watching, I don't know about you, but watching jiu-jitsu, it is just like there's a lot of information going on, isn't there? When you understand it to a, whatever degree you're at, it's a lot to sort of take in, and what they're doing, all the different nuances of the positions and the moves, and the where their weight is, and whatever they're going for, and moves you haven't seen before, or whatever, guys at that level. And it's all happening so quickly. So it's almost like, I find you just reach a point where you're like, I can't see the wood for the trees now. So I know what you mean. And like the thing is, with like a super fight style Polaris, all the matchups have been like sort of fairly carefully curated. So they're interesting. Whereas with the teams format, sometimes there are matchups that you just don't care about. Because two people step up and you're like, I don't care about these guys. Because it's where the chips fall, isn't it? Sort of thing. It's just whoever gets like chucked out for that one sort of thing. So there were some really good matches, like the Szczynski finish on PJ Barch in like under 10 seconds or 11 seconds. Like that is crazy. How that happened, because it was just after Owen lost, right? Was it Owen that lost just before that? And then Szczynski sub 2 or 3 people. In quick succession. It's just really like quick. Fucking hell. Like that shotgun armbar was like sick. That was incredible. And the thing is, I didn't even see it. PJ must have kind of known that was a risk, because he's done that a couple of times on like high level shows. I think he did it to Gary Tonin at ADCC. What, Szczynski did it? Right, okay. And I think he's done it to someone else, maybe at like the I can't remember what show, but he would have known that was like coming, and just to get that, it's like happened so quickly. And it looked like it was bothering him. Some of the commentators were saying that, weren't they? Dan Strater, it looks like his arm was bothering him like after that match. Probably. Like Szczynski, from what everyone says, is like an absolute animal. Like all his submissions are just like super painful and tight. And if you're on a big show, it's the biggest show in the world, and it's a big match, you're putting it on, aren't you? You ain't like letting them tap. You are putting it on. You're trying to break their arm. Totally. And he's a Polish person. Ice in his veins. Polish sort of people don't go like, they don't fuck about. No. You know what I mean? They do not fuck about. Those guys at Ippon Gym, there was a couple of Polish guys there, weren't there? And they've just got ice in their veins. They're just rock solid. When we're doing the judo class. I've never had like I know it's a bit of a cliche. Obviously, Craig Jones said it, didn't he? But like, I've never had like a light round with a Polish person. Nah, they're just tough people, aren't they? They just go for it. Big, strong, not even big, just strong, tough people, aren't they? But there was some good matches. Like I thought Owen did some good stuff. Owen O'Flanagan, like his leg lock game looked really good. It was good to see him wrestling and like passing as well, because he's got that whole game. And it was good to see him actually using that. Him getting submitted was interesting. That was pretty impressive. PJ Barch has got really good leg locks. You know what I mean? He has. He's really good. He's really well rounded. Definitely. So he's no slouch, and to get a counter leg lock on one of the best leg lockers in the world is pretty impressive. It's definitely very impressive. I feel like it sort of peaked at that point. There was that. Then Szczynski subbed him, and then there was a few more matches where there were some really good subs and stuff. And then so the first half, I felt like it should have just ended there, and that would have been like, and then the super fight with the 2 girls, and that would have been a great event. And I think the second half just didn't really need to happen. Because, of course, if you watch the prelims like we did, like I said, they're great. So by the time, as you say, by the time you reach that second half of the main card, it's like just jiu-jitsu overload. And I think the thing is with the prelims, obviously, because they put people on who are like, from the UK, up and coming guys, or maybe coaches or old bastards, like sometimes those matches actually matter more.
Yeah.
Because you are engaged, like you know that guy because you went against him. You know, you've trained with that young guy. Maybe one of them's your teammate, whatever. So those matches you're getting hyped about.
Yeah.
Like I know on the world scene, no one really knows those guys. But you know them, Like, and they've got like 50 guys from their club and like 20 guys from another club, so everyone's going like mad. Whereas with like the high level guys, obviously you do care because you invested, time and you watch them. This guy's good and this guy's good. Oh, it's good to see. But like after a while of like repeatedly doing those matches, it's a bit like
those guys, they exist on a screen to you, don't they? Most of the time. Whereas I think you're right. It bridges the gap. Like I've rolled with that guy. I mean, I found myself even saying to my missus, "Oh, babe, she don't give a shit." Babe, but that guy there, I've rolled with him. So she's just like, all right, don't care. It's funny. I got Ben to come in. He was drawing his bedroom. I was like, Ben, come and check this out. Look, see that guy there? And for a minute, he was like, "Yeah, cool." Anyway, okay, yeah. But yeah, it was really good. I thought I said this earlier. I think Jack Sear and Abraham, I forget his surname. I thought it was a great match. I thought
he was like, because he's the guy who does the advertising for the Warrior like bars.
Oh, okay, I thought I recognised him. Yeah,
and I was like, he's going against Jack Sear. He's massive. Like I thought he was about like 6'2", like 205 or something like that. But he must be very short because Jack Sear's obviously, I think it was like under 70. I'm like, how is he under 70? But he must be like short, very short. Yeah.
But it was. I think we said this last week about the Cade and Levi.
Sorry,
Levi match. He's obviously under 5'9". Must be really short.
At least he's not 6 foot.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's tight.
He's a real man. That's what it is. I do like those kind of matchups because it's a styles make fights kind of situation, and it shows all the good parts of jiu-jitsu. You've got the big explosive guy and the open passing and standing up and a big strong guy against like the wizard. It's the warrior versus the wizard kind of thing, isn't it? And I think that's always good to see. I love those kind of matches.
I want to finish though, because sometimes they can get a bit boring. Like if the big powerful guy can't pass the guard of like the wizard, and then that just replays constantly regaining guard, like, rubber hips, and he just pulls that leg across re-guards, and you're like, after like 4 or 5 minutes of that, you're like,
something needs to happen.
Come on,
totally. But then I find that even more so when you get to
like getting on a leg and finish a leg. Like
that's it, or like toe holding or whatever. But I find two like wizard leg lockers. After a while, I'm like, oh, fucking, come on, just do something explosive, do something sort of exciting almost, because it is. Whilst you're understanding, at that level, watching it from my level, it's like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what they're doing now. But I'm learning the whole time. Obviously, I like that element to it. But sometimes it's just like, come on, just let's get it going. So yeah.
The main event, Helena and Annabelle, is good though.
Right, yeah.
She is so good, that Helena. She's weird. She is.
She's got a strange
that weird
rash guard game, hasn't she?
Hero thing. I like the way she sort of like walks on like this. It's like, but that makes her a bit of a character. And it's like,
that's how you get your name known, isn't it?
Yeah. And her mum's there on the sidelines and stuff, and it is weird, but like it's cool. But she is just
very, very good.
So good, like so good. And that Annabelle's really good. Obviously, she won like Nogi World. And she did a good job against her. Like, she was in some deep submissions. It was like a really deep arm bar, maybe like a heel hook or like a toe hold. A really deep toe hold. She had some good like counter leg locks she was going for as well at the same time. So it was an interesting match. I think probably out of 10 matches, maybe Annabelle wins like 1 or 2 and Helena wins all 8. Like,
she was,
she just looked very... for me, the women's match to make is Fionn and Helena.
I was just going to ask that. Who would she be a good match?
I think Fionn's smaller, because I think that was under 70, and I think Fionn's is like...
Under 60?
I don't know if she's under 60. Like, I think she's competed at under 60, and I think she's also competed at under 65.
Right.
So maybe if they could do like a catch weight, like maybe just do like... like an under 66 or something like that. Then Helena comes down a little bit. Like,
be good to watch, wouldn't it?
That's the match, and I feel like that will happen at some point. Like maybe Helena needs to like win ADCC or something like that, and then they have like a sort of super fight. But that's the match to make. I think. I want Fionn to win, obviously, but she just looks so hard to submit and pass and everything. Like she just looks so good. She did get beaten, obviously, at ADCC. I don't know. I think it might have been Mo Black or someone beat her in the finals. Can't remember who it was. So obviously she is beatable. But yeah, she's young, so she's getting better. Like every month, she just gets a bit better.
How old is she?
19 maybe.
Oh my god! So there's just so many years left.
I think she's 18, and that Annabelle Lopez was only 19.
Wow!
So like, it's amazing to see like two people like who are basically at the top of the tree who are like 18 and 19.
The kids,
sick, isn't it?
Essentially, yeah. I've had the same thing with CJI with like Andrew Tackett.
Yeah,
right? He's 21.
Cade. Like they're both in their early 20s, like late teens, early 20s.
Everybody.
Yeah, it is sick, isn't it? Like you think, and Mika Galvao, I think he's 19 or 20. He won ADCC. Like we are really at a time now, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
But like now, I feel like it's the first time really in jiu-jitsu history, and correct me if I'm wrong, jiu-jitsu historians, where like most, or not most, but like a lot of the winners are like 18, 19-year-olds who've been training since they were kids.
Yeah, and they've got all that elasticity and and
just
recovery.
So much time on the mat.
Yeah,
like that. By the time, like they didn't start when they were 15, and they've been training for 3 years.
Yeah,
they started when they were like 5.
Yeah,
so they've been training for like 13, 14, 15 years, and now they're 18, and they are just savages.
And do you think also there's a bit of a element of like Maki Musumeci is a really good example of it, where their body's grown into jiu-jitsu. So like Maki's hips and that are just super like he can sit on a chair and he puts his feet either side of his hips. And he's like moving away that an average human just can't move. And
it's obviously probably not good for other things in life, but probably like for jiu-jitsu it's great.
Yeah, because your body's still very much growing then, and you're doing all this like dynamic shit with your hips and your spine, your neck, and like. There
was a young lad, I think he was only 12 or 13. He was on Who's Number One last week,
right?
And he's from AOJ, obviously.
Yeah.
Icor Marino, I think. I think it was like ICOR. It's like a Brazilian name, but he had like a very American voice, so maybe he moved over here when he was young. Oh my god, the wrestling was just so sick. I went on like his Insta, and like I think he's competed in wrestling, so I don't know what level of like wrestler he is. Bear in mind, he's only 13.
Wow.
But I don't know like if he's like a top level like wrestler in America as well as being a good jiu-jitsu guy. But it was just so good, and you think that he's 13.
Yeah, he's not even got his man strength yet.
That's what I mean. Like, and he was like jacked.
Yeah,
he's a jacked. He didn't look that. Well, if you think a couple of like the bigger lads like a jiu-jitsu who competed recently, they're like 13, 14. So he did look like that, but like he was like an athlete, like a pro athlete, 13,
thick neck, little cauliflower
like,
ears,
not an ounce of fat on him, like proper muscly.
Yeah,
and just the wrestling was so good. Like, and you just think in like 5 years, he's 100% that kid is going to be winning worlds for sure. He'll be like the next Mika Galvao, the next Cole Abate, that sort of thing. But and the little post was by the Mendez brothers, by Guy Mendez, and he was saying, we're just trying to make every generation that comes through better than the one before, and just
evolution, baby.
It's like AI, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just like, how can they be better? But they are.
Yeah,
just think like adding that like really high level wrestling in, like so you get somebody who's basically a D1 wrestler, but also sit like.
Jiu-jitsu savage.
Jiu-jitsu like ADCC champion standard. I don't think we've seen that before, really. No. Not quite, and that's like. We have got good wrestlers, but I don't think we've ever had like that elite, could be an Olympian wrestler, but also is winning ADCC. Like that's the next evolution.
It's got an answer for every wrestling exchange that happened. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe someone that does do that. They win the Olympics and they win ADCC.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that is probably the next evolution.
Wow, that's a hell of an evolution as well, isn't it?
I don't know if it's possible.
What, time-wise or just
the effort that you'd have to put in.
Yeah, because you'd have to commit fully to one, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The hybrid, true hybrid. I mean, it is possible, isn't it? Someone will do it one day.
Well, it's like what we just saying about the I think it was Dean Lister that said to Brian years ago, there's two types of jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitaros, whatever.
What did we decide?
I think we said jiu-jitaro. I think I conceded. I like jitsuka, but that's just a bullshit word. I mean,
Jiu-joker.
Jiu-joker. We said Jiu-joker, and then we realised possibly like racial that might be.
Yeah.
But it's
like a Jewish person you take the piss out of.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the one that makes the jokes.
Yeah. And Jewish people are quite funny. Yeah. Generally, aren't they? Not so. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. I forgot one point now.
Dean Lister was saying something to Brian.
He said there's warriors. And he said there's two types of kind of jujitaros. There's warriors and there's wizards, and I think I But I think now I think I would say I'm probably more in the warrior camp, when you're definitely more in the wizard camp.
I want to be a warrior. Though.
I want to be a warrior.
I want to be a warrior who can cast spells.
Yeah, I wish I had the brain power to be a wizard, but I'm a blunt instrument. Head down and just
pick them up and throw them at them.
So, yeah, explode, mate! What are you doing? You're thinking too hard. But I think now there's this evolution. There's this new glut of people that are both.
Yeah,
they've got the physicality. They lift and they're strong. They've got strong attributes, and they've got the brain for it as well. That's another part of the new evolution. They're able to take both of those elements. You see the same in MMA. Early days of MMA, it was different martial art versus martial art, wasn't it? Pure martial art versus pure martial art. Then it was like, well, they do a bit of a few things, but that's their special. That one thing is their specialty. Their wrestling's not great, but they're a great striker, for example. And now the best guys, they just do all of it at world class level. Don't they?
Yeah. You're totally right. And I think in some ways, jiu-jitsu is like following the evolution of MMA.
Yeah.
And it really is like combining all areas of grappling.
Yeah.
And especially no-gi, you have to be elite at everything now.
Yeah.
And that terminology of like elite is just only getting better.
Yeah.
And like really you are seeing like truly elite people who are elite wrestlers, elite leg lockers.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're not quite there yet. Like on all aspects being elite, but like I think in 5 years
it's going to get there.
We're going to see like the top guys being literally like being able to just compete in any grappling art and being like absolute savages. Yeah.
And also, as you say, the age that people are achieving that or able to achieve that kind of level is getting younger.
Yeah.
It's fucking teenager. You're a teenager and you're beating men. Or whatever, you're obviously you're in the adult division at 18, so you're beating the best in the world.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's you've got so many years left before you kind of effectively, for want of a better term, you're not in your prime anymore. I don't know about you, but I feel like you really get your man strength in your 30s. I did. I felt like, and it wasn't just because I had kids, but I felt like I became stronger in my 30s. I probably slowed down a bit.
Yeah, I definitely, I think in your 30s probably, yeah.
They call it your dad's strength, don't they? So that is only within an individual. That's just going to evolve and change, and their game's going to change. They're not like Jeff was saying at Hippo. He's like, the young guys are just like lightning. They're really fast, they recover really quick, but then you get slower and stronger, don't you? So it's going to be cool watching how those guys at that level change and develop their game.
Yeah, I wonder if like the best thing to do from like an evolutionary standpoint of your like athletic career is just to move up in weight classes as you get bigger.
Maybe.
So as you're getting slower and stronger, you're putting on size, and like every like 5 years sort of move up like a weight class or two.
Juice
there
yourself
are a few
up.
people like that. Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah, it exists. It's there.
You're going to be juiced to the gills anyway.
Yeah, this is jiu-jitsu we're talking about at the end of
the day. Exactly. Come on.
It's sanctioned by the guys at the top.
It literally. So that's an interesting one. Like, we're seeing these absolute prodigies coming out of AOJ. And I have heard stories of people juicing at AOJ.
Wow, that is crazy, isn't it?
That is surprising to hear, but I have heard those stories. When do you think that starts getting
dangerous?
Well, encouraged.
I see.
One would hope that the children at AOJ, the under 16s, well, even the under 18s, are not on juice.
But then you get a fucking prodigy who's like, I'm not for a second condoning it, but I'm trying to, like, you can imagine certain people thinking, fuck it, let's see what happens, let's do it. Which is so unethical and so awful. Yeah. But it
just depends on, like, your mindset around it, doesn't it? Like, if you've got, like, someone who's on juice and they're like, well, I'm all right, and I'm doing it the right way. I'm having my bloods done. I know the dangers. I've got a doctor managing it for me. Like, it's kind of like a sports nutrition. I mean, it's not obviously, but you could convince yourself, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it, you would have to convince yourself that it's not going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
So you're at that level where you're like, no, this is okay. I'm doing it the right way. I've got a 16-year-old, like, kid. Maybe it's your son. I don't know. Like, whatever. And I'm then we can do it the right way. We're going to get the doctor to supervise it, and it's only going to be a small dose and all. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see how someone would go down that pathway of like making it okay in their head.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. Like, I would definitely be anti that,
because it's still is still very new science, isn't it? Like, and doing it to a kid, like, you know, they're stodgy on so many levels.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that sort of thing. If it was like a Russian, is that your dad?
Let's have a check. See if Dad's checked in. No, it's not my dad. Not my dad yet. We still time. Still time, Dad.
If it was like the Russians or like the Chinese, you'd be like, wow, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm not like being racist in that respect, but obviously they've had pretty high profile doping programs. Yeah. They've got really like embedded like youth sport programs and things. So I wouldn't like be like
shocked.
Oh, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, like, it would disappoint me.
Yeah.
Like, if that was going on at the highest level.
Yeah.
Like, because I'd be like, man, they're fucking kids. Like, you gotta like.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Come on.
At what cost is that happening? You know, when the child is still growing.
Yeah, well, Mika got popped, didn't he? Mika Galvao. And he was like 18 when he got popped. So, like, when did that start?
Yeah, well, how long has that been going on?
Yeah.
That's awful. You know, how much, because the thing is, as a child, it's not your fault. You're guided by your coaches and your parents, and do you know what I mean?
It's 100% not
it's the adults' fault. No.
Yeah. It's the coaching team. It's the people around them. It's the parents. It's whoever's involved in it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know. And
I think for some, it's like any reason that any sports person juices is to win the game, isn't it?
You know, to give you an edge, to give you a sort of a benefit over your partner. Your opponents. But.
Yeah, but Christ, that's a really dodgy game to play with a kid. So we don't do that.
What? Yeah, I mean, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because do you mind if adults juice?
I've said for a long time, and I think even Rogan said this. It's like there should be if you're going to juice, there should be a juice division. Yeah,
but let's say there's a juice division. Are you like about that, or like are you anti it?
What to do with what? Would I want to do it myself?
No. So say like just athletes in general. If there's like there's next ADCC, there's going to be a juiced up division. There's going to be a clean division. Are you like, that's a good idea?
I'd like to see it.
So at what point, at what age are you happy for someone to take steroids?
Fully grown adult, I guess.
What do you classify that?
Above 25, I guess, 30. Do you know what I mean? When you know, I don't know how you would measure, but you're better at answering this. When you can measure that your body's fully grown, you're not growing anymore.
I think probably mid to late 20. I don't know if that is like accurate for like when you stop growing or whatever. I think it's probably in your early 20s. I think probably by the time you're like 23, 24, I'm pretty sure you're like fully grown. Yeah. Like maybe your beard isn't, but like.
Yeah, but then.
But then you could make the argument that you're still developing, aren't you? But I certainly by like mid to late 20s, 26, 27, 28, you are.
I would say then.
Embedded in.
You know, and if people want to do it and it's, you know, I guess the science is evolving for all that, and, you know, and if it's carefully done, then you know, just see what people can do, see what, you know.
There was someone I knew who was considering doing it. They were like a weightlifter, and their mindset, their sort of what they got advice is that you need to get as strong as you can, like naturally, before you start doing it.
Okay.
Because you're kind of leaving gains on the table. Like if you start juicing before you're actually as strong as you could possibly be.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, and the idea is to do it so you can train harder and train more, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like you need to train as hard as you can, hard as you can recover from, for as long as you can, get as strong as possible till you really see things starting to plateau and the gains are much, much slower. So you then start juicing.
So when you reach that point of diminishing returns, kind of. Okay.
Kind of, yeah. Or things have just really slowed down. Which that makes, I mean, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want my family to do it or people that I care about to do it.
Yeah.
But like, if anyone else, I'm just like, yeah, all right, let's see it. What you're capable of, like, it's interesting.
That's kind of, I think that's probably my take too.
Like, if you were like, I'm going to do gear, I'd probably be like, why, mate? Like, what's going on there? Like, do you want to like really like think and I'm not saying I wouldn't change my mind if someone put down a really solid argument and were like, this is what, and I was like, actually, fair, you've got a point, like, that's all right, okay, go do it safely, go for it. But like, I'm yet to hear that, and I just think it's just risky. It's just risky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for your health, for your well-being, for your life.
I mean,
is it worth it?
Steroids are probably different than they were in the 80s in terms of what they are, anabolic steroids or whatever.
Probably. I don't think the steroids are that different. I don't know. I'm no expert.
No.
I'm going to talk like I'm an expert, but I'm not. I have no idea. Literally, I know like 3. The ones I've taken. Yeah, but it's...
But you had a full head of hair before you did that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But I think the testing and like the monitoring and stuff's probably really improved.
Yeah, I guess that's because of the data they've amassed over the years. But then you look at there's all these like WWE wrestlers that they've been juicing themselves to the fucking gills. They're all dying.
Yeah, that's
they're all dying in their 50s.
Yeah.
So you're right. We don't really know the long-term effects of, I guess, the steroid use and the steroid abuse, isn't there? Maybe.
I think it's all abuse, though, isn't it? I think, because I kept getting these adverts for like testosterone popping up,
right?
And I was speaking to the wife about like hormone replacement therapy for women and how like that's actually a really good thing. And I was like, when she was talking about like the menopause and stuff, I was like, this is basically very, very similar to what happens to men when testosterone goes down. So why isn't testosterone replacement therapy more like widely sort of thought of as like a positive thing? The thing that would really hold me back, like I would consider it if my test levels were like really low and I was thinking like weighing up like actually like, my risk of like disease because of low tests and then like supplementing with it, like it's actually sort of like outweighs the benefits outweigh the negatives. I would consider it, but the difference is you're not abusing it. You are taking enough to get you back up to a healthy range.
Yeah.
Whereas as I understand it, and this might be wrong, when you like want to like get jacked and like have better recovery and things like that, I think you take like a supra maximal dose. Yeah. So you take more than what would get you to a normal to get those test levels up. So then you're like working at a higher level. I think that's right.
That makes sense because those are two different motivations, aren't they?
Like one is like just well-being and health and the other is like performance.
I want to be better than the next guy.
I want to be better than the next guy.
Yeah, that's it. So that's the mindset is potentially more unhealthy, the second mindset, isn't it? The
other thing, I think, there's 2 things I think that sort of hold me back from like being like, yeah, let's just fucking do it. Because like one hand it's like, I can like compete with them. I'm just be wrecking all those kids. Like not kids, but like, the 20-year-olds who are like really hard to roll against. Some of them coming in. Like that is what goes through my head. But then I'm like, that actually isn't part of my value set for life.
Yeah.
Firstly, I don't want to be dependent on something that I have to take for the rest of my life. And as far as I know, once you start TRT, you got to do it.
Because your body stops producing it.
Yeah, it stops producing it. Secondly, like, your body is just doing what it naturally does. Like, as you get older, things start to decline. Yeah. Like, and there's probably a reason for that. Like, we're very clever organisms, aren't we? Like, our organisms are designed a specific way. We die at some point. Like, we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to slow down. We're supposed to, things that hormone levels are supposed to do what they do. Like, and there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we should be like necessarily going against that. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It's not like we're not, oh, look, test levels are going down on this person. Like, there could be, like, if they're in their 20s, it's like, okay, there's a problem there. Like, let's help that in some way. It might just be changing their lifestyle factors and things like that. But like if it's like a 60-year-old man, it's like, well, he's 60. Yeah. Like that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to have less tests. It's okay to not be able to keep up with the 25-year-old on the mat who's like an absolute savage. Like you're 60, mate.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Chill out.
Yeah.
So it's like, at what point do we like just accept that actually it's okay to like
be what you are,
get a bit older and slow down and not feel great all the time, like, because that is natural, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess in some cases it's ego's tied in with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to look bigger, you want to be stronger, you want to be
young
better
forever.
Yeah. So which is again, that's when it possibly starts to get unhealthy.
But then maybe I should want to be young forever.
Maybe.
It's conflicted.
Yeah, I've been conflicted with it for a while, and I did look into TRT for a little while, but then all of that came in as well. The whole like you are signing yourself up.
It's not cheap.
No, I can imagine.
My like the biggest concern for me, as well as all that stuff, is like, what about if you run out of work?
Yeah, you still got to keep paying that. Otherwise, you're going to start withering away.
Yeah, like literally. That's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, man, totally. So we just need to make loads of money from the podcast, and then that problem's taken away.
Yes.
So
send us money.
Yep.
Yeah. Sponsor the podcast so we can start our TRT cycle and throw all the values and everything that we said just out the window.
Once money
to smash youngsters.
Once money comes into into the situation, then all of those really, really good justifications just go out the fucking window.
Yeah. This podcast will be deleted from the internet. I'm going to pay a company to go and search and find every shred of this podcast, delete it, and then we'll change everything, and it will just be about how to get jacked, how to be rich.
We'll call it Brojitsu.
Brojitsu. Yeah, fuck off the dad shit. Who cares about the kids? We'll just cancel them.
Send them back. And then we'll do every podcast with both of us topless.
Yeah, and we'll just be arm wrestling for the whole thing.
Yeah. We'll both look like the Liver King.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Into our 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
If we make it that far. But what a life.
Yeah,
what a life we will have lived.
Exactly. Right, on that bombshell, we better call it there. Like and subscribe.
Do all that.
Put the notification thing on so you are notified when we release a new podcast or something else on our YouTube.
We haven't done a shit or legit for a while, have we?
No.
I reckon there's more.
Yeah,
I reckon there's more out there.
There's been a few sent to me lately, so we'll dig one of those out and we'll smash it on the end next time. But yeah, great to see you. See you soon.
See you guys.